Afternoon. Stay here, please. Don't leave. How are you today? Okay. What a pleasure to be here in Israel. I love the startup nation. I love Tel Aviv. You must be proud of what you made. We are very, how do you say? We love your entrepreneur spirit, and we need to exchange, you know. But just a few words, because this guy over there, he told that France, because as you know, I am the deputy mayor of this city, Marseille. You know, Marseille is the largest city after Paris, the second largest city after Paris. Marseille is so attractive. Marseille is so creative. So this guy told before that the French are not entrepreneur. I think he's a little wrong. Entrepreneur is a French word, I can tell you. I think here, in DLD, I came with a delegation of 10 startups. They are doing a good business, and they are here, close to you. You have to see them, and they are ready to do business. Okay, we are here to talk about one new project. This project is called the camp. It's not a project. It's a dream became a reality. And for this, I'm going to give the floor to Andre Zollinger. He's one of the boss of the camp, this campus of the future. But one thing I want to tell you about Marseille. Marseille is unique. It's a French city, it's a European city, it's a Mediterranean city, and it's also a North African city. It's everything you need it to be. So if you are looking for the most inspiring, exciting, the most beautiful city in the world, you have to come and invest in Marseille. You know, Marseille, it's a digital city. Thanks to God, we have 14 submarine cables arriving leaving from China, leaving from America, and arriving on our beach in Marseille. And that's why all the big data centers in the world, they want to put their data in Marseille. The new gold is the data. And that's why now Amazon, Google, Facebook, they want to put their data in Marseille. So please think about Marseille. We all we unroll the red carpet to all the investors. So you are the most welcome here in Marseille and here in our booth. Thank you so much. And now I give the floor to Andre Zollinger, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Didier, for this passionate, enthusiastic introduction. Thank you for the city of Marseille for having me speak on their behalf. It's really an honor and a pleasure. And also, of course, thank you, DLD, for organizing this every year, Yossi Vardi and the whole team, and this is a wonderful event that we really enjoy attending every time. So my name is Andre Zollinger. I'm heading international relations for the camp, which is this new innovation campus space just outside of Marseille, in between Aix-en-Provence and Marseille, in the south of France. And I'm here to talk about that a little bit, and also to explain and maybe talk a little bit about what's happening in the last few years in France. So just to give a little bit of background about myself, because I think that's relevant in this context. I'm originally from Brazil, and I lived most of my life in the US, specifically in California. I lived a number of years in Silicon Valley, and I've been in France for 6 years. And I've witnessed a real transformation that's been happening. Just now, Didier was talking about the delegation just from Marseille, but there's a huge French presence here of entrepreneurs, of innovators, of people with a lot of energy. And while it hasn't been on most people's radars 5 years ago, France is really on the map when it comes to innovation, thanks in large part from what's happening with the government, with Macron. But it's a lot more than that. We can go into a lot of reasons, and I'll let the experts talk about the engineers and the quality of life and the different kinds of things that make it so attractive to go innovate in France and in the south and in Marseille. But what I can say from my experience on the ground is that there's a couple of things that really strike out, and they're actually kind of similar to some of the things that were mentioned in the panel earlier about Israel. And one thing is there's this real need, and it's coming from compassion, it's coming also from the humanist legacy in Europe, in France, of the Enlightenment, that any innovation, any new idea needs to correspond to real human need, needs to correspond to what we call now a lot tech for good, positive impact, innovation for good. So there's this movement and there's a conjecture of these many streams going into the same place. And the second thing that's related is that there's a tradition in Europe and in France of working side by side the private and the public sectors. And today, as I'm going to talk a little bit later, given all the different challenges that we have no choice but to open up dialogue, collaboration, and real projects between these sectors that don't necessarily always work well together, but they have to. So I'm just going to, okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the project that I'm working in specifically. The camp, which is an innovation space, bringing together corporates, the public sector, artists, startups, and youth in an inspirational place, an immersive place where people can stay overnight. They can stay for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, depending on the program, and not only learn about issues related to the future, whether that's artificial intelligence, blockchain, etc., but they can also actually launch collaborations in a real project, and we accompany them in a very specific way. So, question to the audience. Anybody here is a rock climber or likes to go hiking in mountains? Anybody? I have a few people? Okay. So the reason I ask that is because we are physically and metaphorically at the base of a mountain. So this mountain here is the Sainte Victoire. So I don't know how many of you have been to the south of France or have seen any paintings by Cézanne or Van Gogh. There's about 80 of these paintings of this mountain that he was obsessed with. And we have a view of this in the campus, and it's a kind of reminder of us of these big challenges faced by humanity. And when you go climb a difficult mountain, this one's actually pretty easy in reality. You can climb in a couple of hours. But if you go to this, Mount Everest, or some difficult climb, you go to a base camp, right? So you go to a place where you meet with people that you maybe never knew before, people that are totally different than you, people that have different skill levels. Some are experts, some are beginners, some are really scared, some are really confident. And they're facing the same challenge, or they have different goals, but they meet and they spend a few hours together, a few days together, and they collaborate, they test each other's equipment, and they see how to get to each other's goal. So this is how we think about the camp in a kind of metaphorical way. It's a base camp for exploring the future. It's going from the fact that we have all these challenges, and we need places where people from the Israeli ecosystem, from the Asian and American, and from all other parts of the world can get together and work with other people that they're not used to across sectors, across generations, and across all kinds of silos that we're used to working in. So I wanted to give you just a little bit of more of an idea of the actual space and what it looks like, and I think that will do a lot more than me talking about it. So, as you can see, this is not just another co-working space where people rent their offices and then we say that we're changing the world. This is a place that has real programs, that has learning programs, executive education, programs for children as well, to get confident about the future, to learn about it, and to feel like they're actually choosing what they're going into. And it's surrounded by this natural park. It looks like it's totally isolated there, but it's 5 minutes from the train station in Aix-en-Provence. So you can go from Paris, you take a 3-hour train, and you go down. And what do we concretely do? We come actually from a founder who was an entrepreneur in the region. So going back to this is a real kind of entrepreneur with fire in the belly, to quote the last panel. A French entrepreneur who put everything on the line for this project. He began with no partners, and he ended up getting 20 different corporates to join this adventure. And just to give you a very quick insight into his story, he started back in the 90s in digital marketing, became very successful, and over time became more and more concerned actually about a couple things that were going on in Europe, about very real concerns. The fact that all the different CEOs that he was meeting, all the different political leaders, they had their own narrow interests in mind, and they weren't collaborating when they actually needed to. When all the disruptive tech coming from Silicon Valley was about to disrupt many different industries, and people with their own vested interests were kind of working the same way. So this was a growing concern. And this is Frédéric Chevalier, who is this founder that by the age of 29, he already had a publicly traded company. So he was a young star in France at the time. And unfortunately, he is not with us anymore, as he passed away just before the campus was open. And the second thing that inspired him was the fact, the campus space itself, okay? In Europe, we don't have that so much. I don't know about Israel. I think the Technion is technically, it's a campus where people live and work and do research in the same space. But this is actually very rare as a configuration. And it's something that unlocks creativity in a way that is very hard to get. But instead of just doing another university campus, he wanted to do something that would be open to people of all generations. So we're talking about not just college students, but people in the middle age executives, seniors, different generations working together. So this was the basic inspiration for the campus. And I mentioned that he convinced these groups, and this is an example. This is actually the groups that we have today. We have some more that we are currently talking to. But these groups believed in that vision, and they said, we need a place where we can send our employees, where we can send them to meet with artists, where we can send them to work with startups, and where we can send them to get educated about what's going on in the next 5, 10, 15 years, and maybe come up with ideas of not only how to become more profitable and continue our own model, but actually how to transform our model. So transformation is really a key word here. So again, concretely, if you divide in 3 things what we do, we have education and facilitation. So these groups that I just mentioned before, they come in, they say, we really have an issue that we want to crack, that we want to advance on. What can you do for us? And we put at their disposal a group of artists, group of startups, depending on what they need, certain experts, to move in 2, 3 days, a week, or many weeks over a whole year on a project that's going to transform them if they want to get rid of a certain kind of pollutant in the way that they work, or we can put that in place for them. The second thing is events. So we do hackathons. We have groups of women entrepreneurs. We have the Marseille French Tech, that is the tech cluster of the region and of many other places as well, coming in to do events, whether it's women entrepreneur, whether it's entrepreneur from disadvantaged backgrounds, whether it's around a theme like plastic cleaning in the oceans. And lastly, and this is what I really want to talk more in depth with you here, is projects. So while projects can be, it's a very broad word, here we can talk about 3 different kinds. There's incubation and acceleration, which you all understand. There's an artist residency, that's a project-based artist residency. So they come in with their skills. They're artists in a very broad sense. So they're designers, they're makers, they're filmmakers, they're musicians. We get the right mix of skills. We have 20 artists from all over the world. We haven't had one from Israel yet. We just opened a year ago, so we have time. But if you're interested, definitely write to me. And they get lodged, fed, and they get the mentorship to come up with a prototype in 6 months on a positive impact idea. And it's wide open. And it can become a business. It might not. And for entrepreneurs, and this is another reason why I'm here, because of the Israeli ecosystem, obviously, we have incubation. And lastly, we have experimentation. We have projects that are coming up with partnerships between big groups. So I'll give you a very straightforward example. Autonomous vehicles. We have a road that's connecting the campus to the train station, and it's an unpaved road. And we want to make an autonomous vehicle that's unlike others that we've seen. So we want to make one that actually goes on this unpaved road, and it's a shuttle that can transport many people. Just this project, it's not just about the vehicle, it's also about the road, and it's also about the service. It's about thinking about what the job of the bus driver today is going to be in the future. And it unites over 20 different groups, ranging from public, private, and startups. So we have several projects going on like this, whether it's autonomous vehicle, whether it's vehicle-to-grid systems as well with big energy companies. We have a smart port project, and we benefit from partnerships with the city of Marseille, with Aix-en-Provence, with the region, with this whole territory that's our playground. So if you're here, you're an innovator, you have a crazy idea that you want to test, you want to meet an incredible ecosystem, you want to have a landing spot in Europe, this is the place to be. Do contact me, get in touch, let me know what your ideas are, come visit, and above all, continue innovating, continue taking risks, because this is also what France is all about. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. What do you know? We have with us today, don't go anywhere, the founding mother of DLD.